Hello and welcome back. Thank you so much for joining me today. I am filming the third episode of my knitting podcast, or my I make things and then show them to the internet podcast. My name is Nadia. I live in Kildare in Ireland with my two dogs and my partner in a bog in the middle of nowhere. And I do a lot of knitting. I sew a lot, usually, sometimes, and then I generally am just always making things. So this is kind of what this podcast is about. So today I will be sharing a couple of things that I've made recently. I have two-ish finished, maybe three-ish finished things, ish meaning that they're sort of finished, a couple of works in progress, and some future plans. Not a massive lineup, but knowing me, I'll probably find loads and loads to talk about. So yeah, hopefully you enjoy it. Let me know what you think. I'd love to hear from you in the comments, and yeah, without further ado, let's get started. My first finished object is really easy because I'm wearing it today. This is the cardigan number 9 by My Favorite Things Knitwear. It is knit, or I knit it in a strand of kampes 2-ply held with a strand of drops flora. The kampes I picked up on a trip to Sweden recently, and I'm absolutely in love with this yarn. I want to use it for 1,000 things, yeah, I held it together with the strand of flora just to get gauge. I think it's knit on 5mm needles primarily throughout, and it's just like your very classic saddle shoulder cardigan, kind of imitating, you know, those like Baba workhorse cardigans that are just really useful in your wardrobe. I finished this in this past week, and I've been wearing it pretty much non-stop ever since. There's a couple of things that I'm not super happy about, but yeah, overall I'm just really pleased to have it in my wardrobe. I really love the yarn combination. It's like thick and dense, and a little bit rustic, so like I can definitely feel it on my skin, but yeah, I'm wearing this next just to get skin on my arms and with no issues at all. I've also had it like on my neck, up against sort of like my upper chest here, with no issues. So yeah, I think it's completely fine. Although, I mean, I will caveat that by saying I'm not super sensitive to rustic yarns, so you might feel some prickliness with this one. The first thing that I'm not super happy about that maybe I would have changed is the neck. I think it came out maybe a little bit wide for my taste. I would have liked like a really quite cinched in neck. I originally picked up sort of around the neckline sort of intuitively, and had a lower stitch count than recommended in the pattern, and then I went back and I picked up the correct amount of stitch count. And then knit the rest of the collar, and I think I probably should have just stuck with my original, which was a little bit tighter. When I was knitting it, I could kind of feel that the top half was a lot bigger than the bottom half, because I had started off with knitting a size L, I think, and then went to a size M, and so I just had maybe a bit too many stitches on the top, and so I really wanted to cinch it in with the neckline, and I think maybe I just didn't do it enough. I tried 2 different types of cinching it in at the top here. I used a strand of the flora, I think, when I'd first just blocked it, and I was like, oh, that neck's a bit weird, and wanted to wear it out that day. I just, in the car, literally just put a strand of one of the wools round and sort of tightened it up. But it kept doing this thing where it was bunching around the front and not around the back, which looked kind of awkward. And then I undid that, and then put in a real strand of elastic, just like actually a sewing elastic that you use for shirring, because I can't find my like, you know, like clear plastic knitting elastic. I have loads of it somewhere, but I have no idea where it is. And yeah, I added that to the neck, and again, it's still, if I undo the buttons, it's still kind of doing that bunching around the front, but then when you have it tied up in the front like that, it does actually sit quite nicely. So I don't know. I think maybe I might reknit the collar eventually. I think maybe I might pick up like 10 fewer stitches or something like that. It's annoying because it's got that double knitting. So it goes, you pick up, you do double knitting for I think about like 4 rows, and then you do the just single ribbing. I'm really used to doing like a double, like folded over rib on the collar, so I found this very, very strange, but I think with the double knitting it looks super nice. And then you bind off with a tubular or an Italian bind off. And yeah, redoing that will be kind of annoying, but I think that I might do it in the future if it annoys me enough. I'd like to be able to wear this open, so I think maybe not having to use that elastic so heavily and have it bunch up at the front would be better for me. And I really want to wear this a lot. I have a feeling it's going to be really, really well worn in my cardigan, in my wardrobe. So I think yeah, I might do that in the future. Another thing I'm not super happy about is the fit. So I think before I blocked it, I was really happy with the fit around the body. It was oversized without being sort of, you know, like swamping me. And I mean, I knew that the sleeves needed some length because when I originally blocked it, they were like here. And then, you know, like now, like they're falling over my hands and it feels super comfortable. But as I suspected, the yarn did bloom loads. Like it really just sort of, it grew, but it also, you know, filled out and just looks really great. So that's a plus, but I think I didn't quite anticipate how much it would block in the body and sort of give me all of that positive ease. And so yeah, now I think maybe it's just a tiny bit too big. It's annoying. I really wanted this cardigan to be perfect, and it's almost there. I love the way it looks, but yeah, there's a couple of things that I would do differently next time. Hopefully I have some footage of me trying it on before and after, and you can kind of see the difference. But yeah, I think that I was thinking about changing it, but the fact that I've worn it so much since I blocked it already, and like really it's only just been like the past 6 days I think or something, shows me that I'll get loads of wear out of it anyway. And I'm not like, I was thinking I could pull in the side seams by doing some magic with seaming, or I could maybe try and shrink it or something like that, but I think I would just risk messing it up a bit too much, so I think I will keep it as it is. I played Yarn Chicken again. I think in my last podcast I was worried about not having enough, and then there was a moment where I was like, oh, what was I worried about? I have so much yarn. God, you're so stupid. Why did you think that? And then I got to the end and I was like, nope, I do not have enough yarn. I ended up having to... the killer was, the 2 button bands and then the collar, and you really have to do those right at the end after you've put in all the length and everything. So when I got to here, I definitely shortened this bottom rib. It's a lot shorter than it should be. I probably knit for longer and then didn't do enough of a rib at the bottom, which fair enough. And then the button bands are like maybe 2 rows shorter than it says in the pattern. To match that, then the top collar is also maybe about 2 rows shorter than what's written in the pattern. So yeah, and then I think by the time that I got to the collar, I had already used the swatch, and then on the last row I had to join in the second strand of the flora to substitute for the kampes that I was running out of. Yeah, I had to replace that just to be able to finish it. So you can get a large cardigan out of 900 meters of the kampes, but I wouldn't recommend it. It was stressful. But yeah, I'm happy that I was able to finish it. Oh yeah, and then I also sewed on the buttons. I had a couple to choose from. When I was in the States, I took the opportunity to go to the garment district and take a look at all of their fabric. For one, I bought something in Mood because of course, but I also went into one of those like button trimmings shops. I think it's called like Trimmings Ltd or something, and spent a lot of money on ribbons, like $60 on ribbons, and I've also picked up a couple of these sort of like toggle buttons because I knew in the future at some point I wanted to knit something like the cardigan number 9, and I picked up 2 types. There was like a wooden maybe I'll have a picture somewhere, like a wooden kind of like light beigey grey set, and then I also picked up like this really cool silver set, and then didn't end up using either for this cardigan. These I had in stash, so they look black, they're actually navy. I think they're vintage. I think maybe I picked them up in a charity shop at some point. And yeah, they're really hefty. I was a little bit worried when sewing them on that they would make the cardigan droop to the front just because of like how heavy they are. They're plastic, but yeah, just quite substantial. But no, it was fine in the end. I think it holds it really well, and I think it really suits the cardigan. I'm super pleased. So editing me here with one thing that I forgot to mention. God, I look great. One thing that I forgot to mention about the cardigan number 9 that I wanted to was that I think somebody said, maybe Handmade with Florence said, that there's like the one inconvenience about the saddle shoulder is that there's like loads of ends to weave in at the beginning, like when you sort of pick up for the shoulders, etc. And because I knew that going in, one of the things that I did was, because I'd seen like her podcast before knitting this, so one of the things that I did was that I spliced where I could. So like every time that I had to pick up somewhere, I tried to see if there was a yarn end that I could kind of like join in to, just to sort of save myself some weaving in of ends. And also because I knew I was playing yarn chicken, I needed to sort of save those ends as much as possible. Why am I playing with my hair? So yeah, so that was one thing that might make the knitting experience a bit better with the cardigan number 9. Yeah, because otherwise it's just so many ends at the end. It's annoying. Yeah. Yay all round. I think like I'm already craving knitting another cardigan just like this, in like a white, or maybe like maybe not a beige, maybe like a darker color, like a navy. Yeah, I just think these are so useful. I'm gonna get so much wear out of it. So yeah, I'm super happy with this. Has it started pilling? A tiny bit, but I reckon that's probably the alpaca. But yeah, I think it'll hold up really well in the future. Now, the next piece is sort of a finished object. I finished all of the knitting on it, at least. This is the marni sweater that I was knitting in my last podcast, or I'd started to knit. Yeah, so this is based off of the numbers from the Rose Knitwear Aura top, and it is imitating I think it's called patchwork sweater by Marni that I saw online and had been living rent-free in my brain ever since then. And I started basically just playing with the colours when I had COVID, and was able to knit all of these different panels. I think when I last left you, I'd knit this panel, maybe this panel, and one of the sleeves, maybe the second sleeve, I can't remember. But I have finally done the back panel, which is a mix of sort of this like red and 2 strands of this killed silk in like the almond colour. And yeah, I've seamed it all together. I had really hoped to finish it by the time I filmed this, and I think I was on track to, but when I started seaming it, I kind of realised I had some fit issues that I had to fix. Basically, my drop shoulder wasn't a massive drop. It was, I mean, I think it's just like, because these are all rectangles, it was sort of a drop, and it was a rectangle but oversized. It was sort of a drop, but it was hitting about here, and then my sleeves were maybe coming up to like here, and I had like this much gap to sort of fill. So yeah, so I had to sort of go back in and do some different knitting. So I had knit the sleeves bottom up, from the bottom up to about here, and then bound off. And my plan originally was to seam them together like this. But what I did is then, after I'd seamed up the 2 side seams, I picked up and then did some short rows for a sort of like mini cap sleeve. So I just kind of like got to the middle point, knitted a few stitches in, and then like knitted back and forth to do short rows, to yeah, just form this like little cap. got to, that's why also these like stripes are quite big, like quite a lot bigger. This one is like maybe, I don't know, all of these are like 4 stitches. I think this might be like closer to 8. But yeah, it was like a necessary evil just to try and sort of fit everything in. And yeah, I did all of those short rows and was able to sort of at that point graft on. So like I unpicked the bind off on the original sleeve and then grafted the new sleeve cap to the old sleeve, so I didn't have to lose too much knitting. And it's mostly successful on this side, but something weird happened on this side. I've got this weird little bulge under the arm because my pickup, I think actually if you hold them up you can kind of see as well that like my pickup on I have more stitches on this side than I do on that side, and also it feels like my sleeve was smaller on this side than it was on the other side, so I had to sort of like match the stitch counts in order to graft it, and it was, yeah, maybe not the most successful. I was doing a lot of decreases, and yeah, it was just maybe too rapid of a decrease. So I have this strange little bulb. It doesn't look too weird on, but it just looks a bit funny when you hold it up like this. I haven't blocked this, so I'm hoping to get some, yeah, just do some manipulation there so I can hopefully make sure that this lies a bit more funny. And I promised myself, right, I was like, I'm gonna do it intuitively, I'm not gonna worry about making mistakes, and then here I am, like at the final call, being a massive perfectionist with it. I've woven in all of the ends, even though I could have probably just tied knots and it would have been fine. But no, I wanted the inside to look clean, so I did all of that. Yeah, and then also when I seamed it together, I was definitely missing some length at the bottom, so I had to go in again and just add, I did that last night, so added some length on these last few bits here. I think I'd maybe bound off there and I added, I don't know, like that much, like two inches maybe. Yeah, and it's getting there. It's maybe not, again, as oversized, so the opposite problem, maybe not as oversized as I would have wanted it. I think in the inspo images it looks very oversized, and I kind of wanted that to be super long and billowy. But again, I haven't blocked it yet, but it is mohair, and I find that anything with mohair doesn't usually stretch that much, so we'll see. I'm gonna try it on for you guys. Oh, I actually haven't tried this on since I finished it last night, so we definitely have like the length. Oops. The length. I definitely think that will also block out a bit longer. Maybe go down with some more length around the back. But yeah, I think this is looking where I want it to be. The sleeves are really long. You can kind of see that, like when I'm normal sitting, you can't really see that underarm bulge, so I don't know if I'll go back and do it then. And then the last thing that I need to do is sort of all of the like finishing touches. On the inspo images, there's like these black like crosses along all of the seams, and so I will probably go in and just sort of like whip stitch, like sew them on. And then I'm trying to do the sort of cross lines on the what is this called, like the hexagon, there's a word for it, like harlequin, no, I can't remember. But yeah, these sort of like cross lines, there's one in white and then there's one in the red color as well, and they sort of cross and it makes it look like a proper no, it's not chevron, god damn it. Whatever the term for that is, yeah, it kind of looks like that. So yeah, I started doing that last night. I started with duplicate stitch, but I couldn't get the rate right for it to look straight, and then I went back in and did it with a crochet hook and just did sort of like an applied chain stitch. But I don't know if I like it. I think I like the look of the duplicate stitch maybe a bit more, so I might play around with this and go back and change that. I don't know, I like it. It looks really 3D, which I think is cool. Maybe you can tell me what you think. I'll have probably done it by, by the time that this video goes out and I get to editing it, but I would love to know your opinion. And yeah, so I just need to finish those 2 bits and then I can block it. And then this saga will be over. Oh, I'm just noticing as well, because I'd added that length on this colour portion, this part is probably really off in proportion. It should probably be more like that, but c'est la vie. Yeah, the Marni saga has almost come to an end. I really enjoyed playing with the colours, but I think by the time that I was doing all of the seaming, I was really ready to be done with it. And yeah, I don't know how much wear I'll get out of this. It's very bright, and I think I'm not averse to wearing bright colours, but it's not the kind of thing that you want to wear like every single day. So so yeah, I think it's definitely like something I'll reach for when I don't want to have to think about the rest of my outfit, maybe. I think it would look great with a sort of like big billowy white skirt, and maybe, you know, some big heavy black boots, and this just sort of like draped over the top, maybe with like a high neck t-shirt underneath. That's more of a winter outfit, so I'll probably have to wait a while before I can wear that. But yeah, I am looking forward to wearing it like that. And yeah, on the sleeves and stuff, like all of the finishings, they're all just bind offs. And I was actually really pleased. This is one of the things I was worried about, was the neck. In the inspo, there's like no types of finishing at all. Like it just seems to be like bound off. And I was like, there's no way that I can get my bind off to look neat enough to keep it that way. But then also, you know, not have it look too finished. And then in the end, when I was weaving in the ends, it kind of like, it just sort of regulated the neck enough that it looks neat enough, but also messy enough. So like neat and messy at the same time. So yeah, I think that I was really happy with how that turned out. And then I don't need to go in and do like a tiny I-cord or anything like that. The third finished thing is a bit of a weird one. I have been doing a lot of work around the house and like doing a lot of like really small jobs. I have some friends coming in the middle of August, and I just, you know, like all those tiny little jobs that you've been putting off but like would make such an impact in a room. I've been trying to get all of those done, and it's like really exhausting. I like redid the silicone round our bath, and then at the same time redid the silicone like on the back of the sinks in the kitchen and the bathroom. It's a really disgusting job because you're like pulling out like all of the old moldy silicone and then adding in new stuff again. And yeah, I've just been doing, and it's like, it looks really great now, but yeah, it's not a fun job. And yeah, I've just been doing loads of little small bits like that. I finished my wardrobe project that I'd been sort of focusing on for the past, like it's been ages, like 3 months. So we have wardrobes that are functional now, which is really great. And now that I have that off on my plate, I can sort of focus on other DIYs. But it's definitely meant that I haven't been knitting all of that much. Like in the evenings, I've been focusing on some other things. And yeah, anyway, one of the annoying little jobs that I wanted to do is that I have all of these lampshades and all of these lamps. It's one of my favourite things to pick up in charity shops when we go thrifting. Breathe. And yeah, I pick them up when they're cheap, like, you know, €4 and under. I'll just pick up a nice looking shade, like for the shape of it, with the intent of covering them with, you know, nice bits of fabric. So this is one that, here's one I made earlier. This is one that I was working on this week. It didn't take that long. I did this over maybe like 1 evening, 2 evenings combined when I was just finishing off the binding. And the technique is, there's no technique, I just sort of played with it. I didn't even watch a video. I'm just kind of like copying things that I've seen, you know, on the internet in various places. I have this really beautiful fabric from think I picked this up in Greece when we were there last year. They had like very affordable fabric. So yeah, I picked up a couple of different prints and things. And what I simply did is I just kind of like laid the lampshade against the fabric and then just like cut with seam allowance either end and cut it way longer. So like I just used the total width of the fabric and then started pinning. And what I essentially created was like a torture device, because like all of these like pins were just, you know, so I generally like I pin out and then I was like holding this thing that just had like 1,000 pins. That it was like, you know, like Wolverine, but in lampshade form, which is great. But yeah, I whipped this up pretty quickly. I started, how did I do it? So I just started at like the back seam basically, which was the same, the back seam on the actual lampshade. Started from there, pinned that in, and then just did all of these folds all the way around. It was kind of annoying to get it all to match up. And also this fabric, it's like a cotton, so you can finger press it really well. So you don't actually need to like, it just creates the pleats without, you know, needing an iron or anything. And yeah, I just started pinning all the way around, and then trying to make sure that it's also even along the bottom. It's not perfect, but it's a fucking lampshade, who cares? And yeah, and then when I was done, I just trimmed off the top, cut another little strip, essentially made like bias binding, but I didn't do any of the folding. Sewed it all the way around like on the wrong side, and then flipped it up, and then sort of tried to like make it as neat as possible on the inside. But yeah, not massively successfully. And yeah, I think it looks pretty good. It's yeah, like I said, not perfect, but it will look really good on the little lamps that I picked up, which are, yeah, another thing that I like to thrift. I think the 2 lamps I got at car boot sales that I have ready for them. And then yeah, I'm just working on a second one now. So this is also a fabric that I picked up in Greece. My main plan for this is to make, I don't know if you guys know, like horror vacui, I think it's called. They do like really like a marvel in sewing, like all of these like gorgeous hand sewn details, a lot of pin tucks, and like, you know, that trim, like frog's ear trim or something like that. I don't know the name of it. But yeah, like just if you're like a sewing nerd, like they're just really pleasurable to look at, these dresses and skirts. And they're usually made in like Liberty prints. And this is what, like, this fabric is trying to be a Liberty print, right? Like, it's not actually, but it is really trying to be that. And yeah, I wanted to make a skirt and top set that would sort of imitate the horror vacui at some point. But it's one of those projects that needs like a lot of headspace. So I've had that sitting in my stash for a while, but yeah, we'll get there one day. But in the meantime, I just stole this tiny bit of fabric from it. And I went with a simpler pleating pattern here. Again, you can actually see here, this lampshade is filthy, so it's a good thing that we're covering it up. I did wash it, but yeah, I just started at the side here and then just started pinning in this kind of like box pleat formation. Again, just sort of like finger pressing it down. And yeah, I mean, I'll get all the way around. This particular section, it took 5 minutes. The other one, because of all of the pleats, took ages. And yeah, when I'm done, I'll just finish along the edges. I was thinking maybe doing like a velvet trim instead of doing the same fabric again this time, just to change things up. But yeah, I think it will liven up a little corner of the room in quite like, you know, like little effort but maximal impact. Yeah, I think the biggest challenge for this is just trying to get your angles to line up so that your fabric doesn't skew this way or that way. And I think that's when I realized that like I don't understand angles or geometry or any of those things, because I'm just like, I'm like folding it and I'm like, oh god, how? Torture device. This is essentially a torture device. Can you see all of the pins? Look at this. Fuck's sake. Another thing that I'm working on is in my project bag of a dust bag, is my Sanna cardigan. My Sanna cardigan, which has seen some love, not a lot of love, but some love. I'm done with the top panels on both sides, top panels. And then I'm currently knitting, I'm currently knitting the back panel. I have not long to go, I think maybe a couple of rows before do a couple of decreases for the neck, and then once that's done, I think you do a 3 needle bind off maybe, and join the sort of top seams. But yeah, I've just got a tiny bit of length left to go. So the Sanna cardigan is by the Creabea, and she designed this lovely lacy cardigan, which I think is supposed to be knit in a yarn where you can see all of the stitches and see all the beautiful work that you put in. But I decided to do it in black mohair because that's fun. It's actually not that bad. I feel like a lot of people complain about knitting with black yarn, but I don't usually knit in very dark spaces, and I find that like if your needles are a light colour, then you can see the stitches pretty well. It is lace, which is why it's taking me longer. I find that it's not really great for knitting whilst watching something or like talking to someone. I can kind of do it, but it just means that I need my phone in front of me all of the time, and I think I don't love knitting, or I don't love doing that whilst I'm watching TV. And then, you know, you have the small screen and then the big screen. You don't need like all of the screens. It's taken me a bit longer. I also need to go back and do all of the ribbings. So if you watched my last podcast, you know, but I want to do, oh yeah, sorry, the provisional cast on that I did is in a different colour, only on part of the knit. So yeah, in my last podcast I kind of talked about how I did a provisional cast on for the bottom ribbing, and we'll do the same for the sleeves because I want to do a scalloped ribbing, like my inspiration, which is the Simone Rocha, not a specific cardigan. She seems to sort of like re-release these like all the time, but yeah, she has loads of different versions of this like sort of mohair lacy cardigan that I'm sort of trying to recreate with the Sanna cardigan. And yeah, I want to do like a scalloped hem, probably with short rows in the ribbing, which I felt was too complicated to start with, you know, with like a tubular cast on. So I wanted to do it and knit down once I'd done the rest of the lace. So yeah, so it will, you know, I'll enjoy the 1x1 ribbing for as long as it lasts, where it's enjoyable, but then I'll have to figure out short rows, so that'll be less enjoyable. And yeah, that's the update. Still loads to come on this one. I did have some like in the previous videos I'd said that I wanted to add these like finishing touches that are very Simone Rocha, so adding beading and trims and making it like very twee. I also saw the most unhinged inspo in when we went to the cinema. We watched Longlegs, and I actually, funny enough, I brought the body of this cardigan to do in the cinema when we were watching Longlegs. I got loads done, and yeah, saw Longlegs, and then spoilers here because like I don't know if you intend to watch Longlegs, and I'm gonna put up images from like the end of the film, so like please skip to whatever the timestamp on the screen is after the spoilers if you don't want to know and you haven't seen it yet. But yeah, the mother the nun mother at the end, she's sort of like, there's this like whole denouement scene where she's sort of like running with the axe and you know, shown killing all of the families, etc, etc. And then but it's the only thing I was thinking about when watching this is that she's wearing this cardigan that's like very inspo worthy. Like it has like these, I think what are like I-cord bows. It's like a white cream cardigan, maybe with some bubbles, like very like ornate. Pretty much exactly the shape that I'm going for with this one. And then there's these like little bows that are sort of tied on the front of the cardigan. And I think, yeah, I think they're maybe made out of an I-cord. And I was like, trying to pay attention to the end of the movie, but also just looking at this jumper being like, oh, I could do that. That's really great. So that's on weird inspo from unlikely sources. But yeah, I think that could be like a good addition where, and also like really easy, where you just sort of like knit up an I-cord and then attach it to the front, like sew it to the front of the cardigan. Stay tuned if I ever get through all of this lace. It's not hard, it's just that I keep forgetting what the stitch pattern is, and every time I put it down I forget where I am, so I have to sort of read the knitting to try and figure out where I was, because I never leave it at like a good place. And then also with the decreases, like I can remember the 8-row repeat, but then there's some stitches either side that you kind of have to keep track of, and you're also like increasing and decreasing there, so like yeah, it's a tough one to sort of hold in your mind, but I will get there. Now that I've finished these other pieces, or like I'm close to finishing them, I will probably put some more time in on this one, but I will need something else that's stockinette. I've actually picked up a couple of like sock projects that I had brought one to the cinema to watch Deadpool, for example, because yeah, I've just run out of stockinette things, and so yeah, I need to cast on like another boring sweater project so that I can have some easy stockinette to knit. Yeah, and then that's kind of it on everything that I have. Like I said, I had picked up some socks. I will definitely be probably finishing up those socks soon. They were the ones that I showed you in my first podcast and then sort of didn't touch again. I tend to just like leave socks languishing for a really long time and then just put like a little bit of work on them here and there. I probably have like 7, I probably have like maybe 7 sock works in progress just milling about, that I kind of, you know, pick up and put down. I'm never really too fussed about getting them done. In fact, I think I have like some almost finished pairs of socks, like maybe 3 different almost finished pairs of socks, which is ridiculous and I should just finish them. Maybe I will do like a week at some point where I just like finish off all of my socks and then I'll have basically a new sock wardrobe. But that's probably more helpful to do in the winter, because right now I'm already wearing socks. Yeah, so apart from that, I do want to cast on something soon. I released a patterns video for the summer, sort of my plans. I actually don't have any of those plans planned to cast on. I feel like I actually need to go back through my video again and just try and figure out like what's the thing that I want to knit the most. I should probably start on that silk, the Knitting for Olive silk t-shirt, but I think I might save that for when we're going away to France, because I think it would be nice to cast on a new project when we're going away. And it's not, whilst the weather's kind of not great here, like I'm not super motivated to knit very summery things. But yeah, I had so many plans in that video and I should really get started on some of them. One of the things I did mention was the clematis cardigan sweater. I think it's called a sweater because it is actually attached at the top. Continuing my like cardigan fest. I've been meaning to knit the clematis sweater for a while, and I would really actually quite like to knit it twice. I think 2 different yarn iterations. In the video that I posted, I said I wanted to hold it with a strand of Sister yet, but I haven't pulled my finger out and bought it yet. And I do, I don't know, I can't say this without it ruining surprises, but there may be an opportunity in the future to buy it, not remotely, but buy it in person, maybe. So is that vague enough? So yeah, I think I'm just gonna hold on that specific plan with that yarn, but then knit the clematis sweater in another yarn. And the yarns that I intend to use are Drops Fabel, in, this has a particular color name, I think it's like Blue Wave, I have no idea. It's color 917, but I think it does have like deep blue, something like that, I don't know. I'll put it on the screen. And then the Drops Kid Silk in the navy color. It's a weird name. So I have two balls of the other of the navy. They had another sale again, for God's sake. They had another sale on the Drops Kid Silk, which is very hard for me to resist because I use it quite a lot. But the thing is that they always have the colors that I want not in stock, which is annoying, from the supplier that I get it from. So the navy is usually always out of stock, and then they restocked it in the middle of the sale, and I was like, right, okay, I have so many projects planned with navy that I need to order more, so I ordered 5 of them, and I already had 2, and they're completely different dye lots. Like, they're so different. Like, this is more of a, like, say like a bright blue navy, and then the other one is probably closer to what I imagine the knitting for olive navy is, like more of a deep black navy. So yeah, so this is the one I have the sweaters quantity in, so I'm going to use this one, but yeah, just those dye lots, they do change quite a bit. And yeah, this is the plan that I have. It's sort of imitating, you know, those like 90s long print pattern sweaters. Like, I think that was like a very like 90s thing to have this specific like print over jumpers and things like that. And I think I may be remembering this wrong, but I think one of the original jacquemus, I really need to look this up, jacquemus. The original one was knit in a very similar colorway to this, and I actually bought this yarn when I first started knitting, like all the way back in 2022. Like, one of the first orders I ever made included this yarn because I wanted to make that sweater, and I wanted to make it in that sort of like 90s long print kind of pattern, and I thought that this was a perfect dupe for that, and that's why I was like, oh, I don't want to knit it in a fingering weight, blah blah blah. But I won't knit it in a fingering weight because I don't want to, so I am going to hold it with the Drops Kid Silk, and that will get me mostly a DK. I did swatch a while back. I swatched with the Fabel Held Double, which is the one at the top, and then I swatched with it Held Single, and I much prefer it Held Double, and that's also the weight of the cardigan as it's written, like the pattern. That it's like a DK and a strand of mohair. But I think it ruins the print because you're holding the print double. It's not as long, or it gets lost. And you can kind of see here, like, that top section is just completely blue. And I don't want that. I want it to be like a long print. So I think I'm going to go ahead with this airier fabric. It's, yeah, strand. So like a DK, I think, what's the needle size? Like maybe like a 4.5? Which is quite dense for a DK, plus a, I don't know, I like my fabrics quite loose. But yeah, it will create quite an airy fabric, plus a sock yarn, so it's going to be quite stretchy. I think that's quite good if I want to wear it more in the spring, summer, early autumn. I think it probably actually having a sort of looser gauge will be nice for that. It's also maybe like more close fitting than a lot of the things that I usually knit are, so maybe having that lighter fabric and having it be quite stretchy would be a good thing. But yeah, I need to go back now and figure out what needle size I knitted this on, and maybe I could go down a needle size to make it slightly less loose and then knit a bigger size. I would have to re-swatch if I wanted to do that. And what else? Yeah, figure out what needle size, figure out what my gauge is looking like, and then cast that on at some point. I'll stop playing with that. But yeah, that's sort of my most immediate plan. I will probably have some burst of creativity at some point and knit some crazy things. But for now, that's everything. I don't really have any yarn acquisitions. I did make an order a while back that I haven't shown you from Winnie the Wool Wagon, our Irish supplier of drops yarns and other yarns, but like she's like a drops superstore. But it's not that interesting. I stocked up on things that were in the sale, so I'd actually run out of some of the fabel because I keep using it in other sock projects because it's quite handy. So I topped that up, and I bought the navy mohair, and then I also bought, in one of my videos I think I mentioned that I wanted to make a wrap cardigan with the drops cotton merino, and I think I only bought like two balls maybe, so I bought the remainder of the balls because I think it will be a really fun project. And yeah, I think that's kind of it. I think, oh, I also bought a strand of drops alpaca, a sweater's quantity of that in the off-white color, because I wanted to pair it with the kampes in the white that I bought. But yeah, it was really just like stocking up on things that I know that I'll use in projects and not really like a fun yarn purchase. So I don't really have anything too exciting. And yeah, I think that's it. Is this gonna be a short one finally? Am I finally being succinct? Yeah. I will, in the coming weeks, I will be back to you with a video about duping designer sweaters or jumpers, because I promised it and because I can't wait to film it. There are a couple of things that, so like this mess of a thing, the Marni sweater is one of those, but I've also done some in the past that have specifically been duping designer sweaters, and I have a lot of plans as well for other ones that, you know, I've seen filed in the back of my mind. I'm like, I can make that, and then I plan to make them. And yeah, I think it will also include some of my thoughts about copying and, you know, stealing designs and all of that. I think it's a discussion point that comes up a lot in knitting communities, crafting communities, so I think hopefully that should be interesting. Yeah, so that will be coming up soon. After that, I don't know, I think I've run out of video ideas. After that it'll just be regular podcasts. No, I'll have to think of some things. But yeah, I'm having fun so far. Like, I think, yeah, I'm having fun so far sharing all of my makes. I think it has given me like a renewed sense of wanting to post on my Instagram as well. Like, I'm trying to think of like short form content ideas, so like it's nice to have that sort of reinvigoration of like your posting energy. Like, I think my Instagram had been a sort of haphazard graveyard for like a long time, and then I mean the only thing is just like the time that it takes. Like, I'm really new to editing and basically all of these things, and like everything that I'm doing is not through knowledge, but it's just through like, oh, I've watched so much YouTube, I know that how it should look, or like how I want it to look, and then I'm just trying to like figure out a way to do that. like reverse engineering being a YouTuber. So yeah, it's taken me a lot of time, and I'm learning on the go, and I'm trying to make like each video a bit more sophisticated than the last one. Yeah, it takes up a lot of time. I'm gonna keep at it. I'm having fun so far, and yeah, it's just really nice to see your comments and have people sort of chime in and enjoy the things that I'm making. So thank you so much. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for coming back if you have. No dogs, because I have learned that trying to film with a dog in the room is very distracting. So yeah, we might just have to have like B-roll footage of the dogs otherwise. Okay, I'm gonna go make a coffee because I haven't had one yet today, and I'll see you soon, hopefully. Thank you so much, bye. Heartbreak is one thing. I beg you, don't embarrass me, motherfucker. Get into the swing of it. In an emergency, what is wrong with you? Elevator music, elevator music.